Ethan Miller had always felt most at home in the quiet corners of Blue Ridge University's library, where the scent of aged paper and the soft hum of fluorescent lights seemed to slow time. He carried with him a small notebook, the edges frayed, pages filled with tentative poems he would never dare to share with anyone. On one particularly overcast afternoon, Ethan was seated near the tall oak windows, lost in a sonnet by Keats, when a sudden movement caught his attention. A girl with a cascade of auburn hair and glasses slipping slightly down her nose was balancing a stack of literature books in her arms. She paused mid-step, glanced at the open notebook on Ethan's table, and asked softly, "Is that Keats?" Ethan looked up, slightly startled, his eyes meeting hers. There was an intensity in her gaze, not the kind that demanded attention, but the kind that invited conversation. "Yes," he replied cautiously. "Bright Star, actually." A small smile curved her lips. "I love that one. There's something about the way he speaks of constancy. It feels like he's speaking to time itself." Something about her voice, gentle yet deliberate, made Ethan feel as though the library had shrunk around them, leaving only the two of them in a bubble of shared understanding. "I'm Ethan," he said, closing his notebook slightly. "Claire," she responded, extending a hand. The contact was brief, but it carried the subtle spark of recognition, the kind that poets and dreamers often write about but rarely feel. They ended up sitting together, exchanging favorite poems, comparing notes on their professors, and laughing at the obscure literary references only they seemed to understand. By the time the sun had dipped below the Blue Ridge horizon, casting long amber streaks through the windows, Ethan realized he had found something rare, a kindred spirit. And in Claire, he sensed not just a friend, but someone who could see into the quiet corners of his mind that no one else had touched. By the time they reluctantly parted ways that evening, both were filled with a quiet exhilaration. It was the kind of connection that demanded nothing yet promised everything, the kind that left hearts beating just a little faster. And though neither of them knew it yet, this chance meeting would set the stage for a love story that would challenge time, fate, and circumstance. In the days that followed, Ethan and Claire found themselves gravitating toward each other. They would sit under the sprawling oaks on the university lawn, books sprawled around them like a protective circle, and talk for hours about the poetry that moved them, the novels that had shaped their young hearts, and the dreams that seemed too fragile to speak aloud elsewhere. Ethan, with his soft-spoken intensity, would read aloud the verses he had scribbled in the quiet of his dorm room, each line revealing fragments of his soul. Claire, in turn, would share her own reflections, never dismissing his timid attempts at metaphor, but weaving her insights around them like sunlight threading through leaves. They critiqued, encouraged, and inspired each other in equal measure. One evening, as autumn painted the campus in shades of gold and amber, they lingered near the fountain, their conversation turning from literature to life itself. Claire confessed her vision of a future where creativity was not just a hobby, but a shared life. "I want a home filled with books and music," she said dreamily, her hands tracing the edges of the fountain. "A place where we wake up each morning and the first thing we do is write or read or simply talk. And someone who understands that is beside us, sharing the silence and the chaos alike." Ethan felt a warmth he could hardly name. "I've imagined the same," he admitted. "A life where poetry isn't something we do in secret, but something that shapes our everyday. Where love doesn't interrupt our dreams, it amplifies them." Their eyes met, and for a moment, the world beyond the university's boundaries ceased to exist. In that space, filled with youthful optimism and idealism, the seeds of their love took root. They began planning literary projects together, promising to attend readings, submit their work for contests, and one day perhaps publish a collection that bore their combined voices. It was the sort of friendship that poets describe in metaphor but rarely experience in reality, a bond that felt at once fragile and eternal. And though they laughed and joked like any pair of close companions, there was an underlying current, a quiet recognition, that this connection was destined to evolve into something far deeper, far more consuming than either had ever imagined. Not all dreams, however, are free of shadows. One evening, as the sky darkened and a cool breeze rustled the falling leaves, Claire found herself walking beside Ethan along the winding path that led to the dorms. There was a hesitation in her step, a heaviness in her chest that Ethan immediately sensed. "What is it?" he asked gently, sensing her mood. Claire paused, eyes fixed on the horizon where the Blue Ridge Mountains were tinged in twilight purple. "It's my parents," she admitted quietly. "They've been talking about my future, about marriage. They want someone wealthy, someone respectable, someone like Michael Harrington." Ethan felt the words like a stone sinking in his chest. Michael Harrington? Successful, poised, and from a family whose wealth was almost legendary in the region. He had heard of him, of course, as everyone at university had, but hearing Claire speak the name aloud made the distance between their worlds suddenly tangible. "They think I don't notice, but I do," Claire continued, her voice tinged with sadness. "And I don't know what to do. I care about you, Ethan, but sometimes love doesn't seem enough." Ethan struggled to mask the hurt. He had always known life could be cruel, but this revelation cut sharper than any poet's lament. He wanted to argue, to insist that their bond was strong enough to withstand wealth, expectation, and societal pressure. But he knew her words were rooted in reality, and reality, he realized, was not always kind. He walked beside her in silence, grappling with a whirlpool of emotions, fear, longing, and a deep, unnameable sorrow. "Claire," he said finally, voice steady though heart heavy, "whatever happens, promise me one thing." She looked at him, searching his face for reassurance. "Promise me you'll never stop writing," he said. "Promise me that no matter what the world expects of you, your heart and your words will always belong to you." Claire's eyes glistened with tears, a mixture of gratitude and grief. "I promise," she whispered. And though they both understood that the future was uncertain, that life might soon pull them in opposite directions, this shared vow became a silent tether between them, a fragile lifeline of hope, creativity, and undying connection. The morning sun filtered gently through the maple trees lining the campus walkway, painting the path in soft golden light. Ethan and Claire walked side by side, their steps unusually slow, as if both were trying to stretch time itself. Today was their last day together, before Claire would leave for a week-long family retreat, though neither of them could ignore the heavier truth simmering beneath the surface. Claire's future might already be decided without him. They found themselves on a secluded bench near the edge of the university's botanical garden, where the roses had just begun to bloom, their fragrance mingling with the crisp scent of autumn. For a long moment, neither spoke. Ethan wanted to fill the silence with something profound, but every word felt inadequate, fragile, like a paper boat on a river too swift to hold it. Finally, Claire broke the quiet. "Ethan, I've been thinking about everything," she said softly, tracing her finger along the edge of the bench. Her voice held a mixture of resolve and vulnerability that made Ethan's chest tighten. He looked at her, reading the unspoken tension in her eyes. "Claire, whatever it is, you can tell me." She inhaled slowly. "I don't know what the future holds. I don't know what my parents will decide, but I do know one thing." Her gaze met his, earnest and unwavering. "I want you to promise me something." Ethan's heart thudded. "Anything." "Promise me you'll marry someday," she whispered, her voice trembling, "and that you'll never stop writing poetry. Promise me that no matter what happens between us, your words will always be yours, and your heart will always find a way to speak." Ethan felt the weight of her words settle like a stone in his chest. He wanted to hold her, to insist that nothing could take her from him, yet he understood the fragile reality pressing against them. He nodded slowly, swallowing the lump in his throat. "I promise," he said, his voice barely more than a whisper, yet steady in its sincerity. Claire's hand found his, and for a moment their fingers intertwined, a silent affirmation of their bond. "No matter what happens," she said, eyes glistening, "I'll always remember this, us,
the words we've shared." Ethan smiled faintly, though the ache in his heart was sharp. "Me too," he replied. And as they sat in the soft glow of the morning, both knew that promises made in quiet moments often carry the heaviest weight, and that some goodbyes are far more complicated than they appear.
It was a crisp Sunday afternoon when the air in the Donovan household felt suddenly heavier than usual. Ethan had come over under the guise of studying with Claire, but he had noticed the subtle tension in her parents' expressions, the way her mother's hands clenched and unclenched, the way her father's voice carried an unusual formality. "Claire," her mother began, carefully choosing her words, "your father and I have been discussing your future, and we've made some decisions we feel are best for you." Ethan felt his stomach tighten. He had suspected something, but nothing had prepared him for the words that followed. "We've arranged for you to marry Michael Harrington," her father continued, his tone firm yet measured. "He's a successful architect from Charleston, a man of good standing, with the means to provide security and comfort." Claire froze, her eyes flickering briefly toward Ethan. She opened her mouth, but no words came. Ethan's hands, which had been resting on his notebook, clenched into fists. The room seemed to tilt slightly, the walls pressing closer. Ethan forced a calm exterior, swallowing the sudden surge of anguish. He had imagined rejection before, felt the sting of distance and impossibility, but hearing it spoken aloud, so definitive, pierced him in a way that words could not repair. Claire's mother's voice softened. "We know you care for Ethan, but this is about your future, your security, your place in the world." Ethan nodded silently, though his heart felt shattered. He wanted to argue, to insist that love mattered more than wealth or social standing, but the words stuck in his throat. He forced himself to smile politely, even as the world inside him crumbled. Claire's eyes met his, wide and pleading. She wanted to say something, to stop it, but the look she gave him carried all the sorrow of inevitability. Ethan, understanding the unspoken plea, gave her a small, sad nod, an acknowledgement that he would honor her situation, even as it broke him. After the announcement, Ethan quietly excused himself, stepping out into the cool autumn air. He drew a deep breath, letting the wind sting his cheeks as if to remind him that he was still alive. But the ache in his chest was stubborn, and the promise he had made to Claire earlier, never to stop writing, to marry someday, felt both urgent and impossible. As he walked back toward the campus, notebook tucked under his arm, he whispered to himself, "I will keep my word, somehow." Yet the weight of the world pressing down on him made even that simple promise feel like a mountain too high to climb. The grand chandelier in the Harringtons' bedroom cast a soft, golden light, but it did little to warm the chill settling over Claire's heart. It was her wedding night, a moment that should have been filled with joy, yet her mind kept replaying flashes of another life, one filled with quiet afternoons in the Blue Ridge Library, shared laughter over poems, and the unspoken bond she had with Ethan Miller. Michael, oblivious to her inner turmoil, smiled warmly as he handed her a small, elegantly wrapped package. "I wanted you to have something special," he said, pride and affection in his voice, "a collection I thought you'd enjoy." Claire's fingers trembled slightly as she unwrapped the gift. Inside lay a leather-bound volume of poetry, Ethan's poetry. The familiar cover, the familiar penmanship, her breath caught. Michael had chosen it simply because it was his favorite author, unaware that this choice would pierce her heart like a sharpened blade. For a long moment, Claire stared at the pages, memories flooding back unbidden. She saw herself laughing with Ethan, heard the whispers of their shared dreams, felt the weight of promises made under autumn skies. Her hands shook as she held the book to her chest, and she realized that the wound she had carefully hidden, the longing she had buried deep, had reopened with a force she hadn't anticipated.
For a long moment, Claire stared at the pages, memories flooding back unbidden. She saw herself laughing with Ethan, heard the whispers of their shared dreams, felt the weight of promises made under autumn skies. Her hands shook as she held the book to her chest, and she realized that the wounds she had carefully hidden, the longing she had buried deep, had reopened with a force she hadn't anticipated. Michael noticed her silence, and concern flashed across his face. "Claire, is something wrong?" She forced a smile, one that didn't reach her eyes. "It's beautiful," she whispered, though her voice trembled. "Thank you." But the gift was a cruel reminder of what she had lost, of a love interrupted by circumstance and duty. That night, as Michael slept beside her, Claire lay awake, the soft light of the moon illuminating the room, her mind wandering to Ethan. She wondered where he was, if he still wrote poetry, if he remembered her. And somewhere deep inside, a silent ache began to grow, a longing for a life that would never return. For Ethan, though miles away, the universe seemed to have shifted in tandem with her pain. He had no way of knowing, yet somehow the echo of his lost love began to whisper to him in the quiet moments of solitude.
Ethan sat alone in his dorm room that evening, staring at the empty page of his notebook. The words that once flowed so freely now seemed stuck, choked by a heaviness he couldn't shake. The realization that Claire had been taken from him, not by choice, but by circumstance, weighed like a stone on his chest. For days, he wandered the campus without purpose, a ghost among students laughing and dreaming. The poems he had once written with such passion now felt hollow, each line a painful reminder of what could never be. He could no longer bear the bittersweet ache of poetry. It was a luxury he could not afford, while his heart remained tethered to a past he could not reclaim. Then came the call from home. His father's stone quarry, nestled in the Appalachian foothills, had been left to him after his father's passing. A tangible responsibility, a concrete task, and a way to anchor himself when the world seemed to spin uncontrollably. Ethan made the decision swiftly, almost desperately, to abandon poetry and immerse himself in the tangible, the laborious, the grounded. The quarry became his refuge, each day spent amid jagged stones and the rhythmic hum of machinery. The physical exhaustion soothed him in a way that words never could. He found solace in the sweat on his brow, the ache in his muscles, the methodical nature of shaping stone and managing the land. Every boulder moved, every wall constructed, became a silent testament to his need to escape the torment of memory. Yet, even in the hardest labor, the ghosts of his love lingered. In the quiet moments between tasks, he would catch himself staring at the horizon of the Blue Ridge Mountains, imagining Claire walking along the campus paths, laughing, reading, dreaming. But he forced himself to look down, to focus on the quarry, to accept that life had taken a different course. In turning away from poetry, Ethan turned towards survival. He built a life of discipline and routine, a life that demanded nothing of the heart but the work of the hands. And though the ache of lost love never fully disappeared, he learned to coexist with it, a silent shadow beneath the weight of his daily life. The boy who had once dreamed of words now shaped stone. The poet who had written with hope and longing now built with sweat and resolve. And somewhere in the Appalachian foothills, the echoes of a love interrupted remained, waiting for a time when the heart might dare to speak again. Ethan first met Laura at a small community gathering in Asheville, where her quiet warmth stood out among the chatter and laughter. She wasn't flamboyant or demanding attention. Rather, she had a steady presence, a calm reassurance that drew people toward her. For Ethan, whose heart had been bruised by the ghosts of the past, her kindness offered a gentle refuge. Their courtship was gradual, built on shared walks along mountain trails, evenings spent cooking in the kitchen, and long conversations about dreams and ambitions. Laura was fascinated by Ethan's meticulous nature and the quiet intensity he brought to everything he did, while Ethan admired Laura's empathy and ability to remain grounded even in uncertainty.
Eventually, they married in a small ceremony, surrounded by family, close friends, and the quiet majesty of the Blue Ridge foothills. It wasn't the passionate whirlwind of youth that Ethan had once experienced, but it carried a serenity he had come to value. With Laura by his side, he began to envision a future not of heartbreak and lost love, but of shared responsibility, laughter, and subtle joys. The birth of their daughter, Sophie, a few years into their marriage, added another layer of warmth to their lives. Ethan marveled at her curiosity, the way her eyes sparkled when she discovered something new. Laura's patience as she nurtured Sophie impressed him daily, and Ethan found himself participating in a domestic rhythm he had once imagined as distant or unattainable. Together, they built a quiet life: weekend picnics by the river, cozy evenings in front of the fireplace, and small celebrations of milestones big and small. Though the ache of past heartbreak occasionally whispered in the corners of Ethan's mind, it was tempered by the tangible love surrounding him, love that was slower, steadier, and less consuming than the poetry of his youth, but deeply enduring. Even as the years passed, Ethan felt a quiet gratitude for the life he had carved, one of stability, responsibility, and small joys. He may have abandoned the words he once wrote, but in Laura and Sophie, he found a different form of creation, one grounded not in verse, but in love and legacy.
Meanwhile, Claire and Michael settled into a suburban home in North Carolina, choosing quiet streets lined with maple trees, yards carefully manicured, and neighbors who valued discretion as much as appearances. Michael's work as a successful architect kept him occupied, designing buildings with the precision and ambition that had always defined him, while Claire slowly found her own footing in volunteer work and community programs. Their son, Ryan, grew up in a home filled with careful planning, structured routines, and a sense of comfort that only wealth and stability could provide. He was bright, curious, and well-mannered, his personality shaped by parents who emphasized responsibility and foresight. Claire often looked at him and felt a quiet pride, though sometimes a shadow of nostalgia crept into her thoughts when she recalled the passionate ideals of her youth. Michael, ever observant, began to notice Claire's occasional faraway looks and soft sighs, but he attributed them to the natural reminiscences of life's complexities. In truth, Claire's mind occasionally wandered to Ethan, the boy who had shared her dreams and her poetry in college. Though she loved Michael in her own way, there was a quiet corner of her heart reserved for the unspoken connection she had once had. Still, they built a life that appeared seamless to outsiders: birthday parties in the backyard, weekend drives to the mountains, and a home that embodied success and careful planning. Claire occasionally filled her own journals with reflections and musings, a private habit that allowed her to keep her creativity alive without disturbing the equilibrium of her domestic life. Unaware of Ethan's lingering feelings and the depth of their shared past, Michael focused on their present, confident in the life they had created together. And in this suburban world of quiet order and predictable routines, Claire sometimes felt the tug of a life left behind. But she kept it buried, a fragile memory tucked safely among her other responsibilities. Years passed, each blending into the next with a rhythm of work, family, and obligation. Ethan became deeply entrenched in the management of his father's stone quarry, overseeing workers, machinery, and business expansions that kept him constantly occupied. His hands were roughened by labor, and his mind focused on practical concerns, the kind of focus that left little room for reflection or regret. Laura's presence remained a steady anchor, her kindness and quiet humor softening the edges of Ethan's lingering melancholy. Sophie grew into a bright, curious child, and Ethan found joy in her discoverings and questions. He celebrated milestones with careful attention, teaching her to appreciate both the natural beauty of the mountains and the discipline required to achieve meaningful work. Though the memory of Claire never completely faded, Ethan buried it beneath layers of routine, responsibility, and pragmatic focus. Poems remained in a forgotten drawer, dusty and unopened, as if that part of his life had been a dream from which he had woken.
Yet sometimes, when a soft breeze swept through the mountains, or the golden light of dusk caught the quarry walls just so, he felt a flicker, a memory of laughter, of words exchanged, of promises made under autumn skies. He told himself that life was not poetry, that it was labor, responsibility, and family. And in a sense, he was right. Yet, even as he embraced this practical existence, the echoes of his youth remained, faint but persistent, waiting for a day when past and present might collide once again.
The studio lights of Asheville's regional television station glared bright and artificial, reflecting off the polished floors and the rows of cameras pointed at the stage. Claire Donovan, now a poised and confident host of the popular show Voices of the Blue Ridge, adjusted her notes and checked the teleprompter one last time. Today's guest, she knew, would be more than just another featured author. It was someone who had once held her heart. Ethan Miller stepped into the studio, the air filled with the scent of cameras and polished wood. Time had changed him. He was taller, broader, his quiet intensity now tempered with the assuredness of a man who had carved his life from sweat and labor. But there was no mistaking the same gaze that had once looked at her across the library tables of Blue Ridge University. Claire's heart raced as she greeted him, a professional smile masking the swirl of memories threatening to overwhelm her. "It's been a long time, Ethan," she said, voice steady, though her hands trembled slightly. "It has," Ethan replied, his tone calm but carrying an undercurrent of emotion. He noticed the same spark of intellect in her eyes, the same thoughtful pauses, the same ease with words that had drawn him to her years ago. The cameras rolled and the interview began. Claire's questions were measured, professional, but there was an unmistakable warmth in her tone. Ethan answered with thoughtfulness, sharing his journey from poet to quarry owner, his growth, and the lessons learned in between. But beneath the surface, unspoken words lingered, reminders of shared afternoons, promises made, and dreams that had been interrupted. For a brief moment, when the cameras were off for a commercial break, they exchanged a glance heavy with memory. No words were necessary. The years of separation, the loss, the lingering affection, all were carried in that single, silent acknowledgement. Both knew that their lives had moved forward, but the past had not completely released them. As the cameras resumed, they both donned their professional masks again, but inside, the quiet echo of old love hummed like a melody only they could hear. For Ethan, it was the first time in decades that the world felt familiar and painful in equal measure. For Claire, it was a reminder that some connections are never fully severed, no matter how much time passes. Later that evening, Claire invited Ethan to the Harrington residence for dinner, a polite gesture that carried layers of unspoken tension. The suburban house was immaculate, the kind of home that reflected success and careful curation. Michael Harrington, tall and composed as always, greeted Ethan warmly, though there was a flicker of scrutiny in his eyes as he watched the way Claire and Ethan interacted. The dinner table was set with elegance, the low hum of classical music playing softly in the background. Claire moved between the two men with practiced ease, yet the ease was strained, each glance and smile a careful negotiation of past and present. Michael studied Ethan closely, noticing the subtle familiarity in the way Claire leaned in slightly when he spoke, the quiet attentiveness in her eyes. He sensed a bond, not just from friendship, but something deeper, forged in the fires of shared dreams and youthful passion. A shadow of unease settled over him, tempered only by the polite flow of conversation. Ethan, for his part, remained conscious of the invisible line that now separated them from the past. He spoke respectfully, measured, aware of Michael's presence, but he couldn't completely mask the connection he and Claire still shared, a bond built on years of intimacy, shared creativity, and unspoken understanding. Ryan, sitting across from them, sensed the subtle tension but didn't yet understand its source. He watched quietly, noticing the way Ethan's eyes lingered ever so briefly on Claire and the soft, almost imperceptible smiles that passed between them.
Dinner passed with conversation about careers, travels, and the city's literary scene. But beneath the surface, a quiet battle of recognition and restraint played out. Michael, the ever-observant husband, made mental notes of the moments that felt loaded with history, realizing that Claire had inspired someone who had, in some way, shaped her past. The night closed with polite goodbyes, but the tension lingered, simmering like an undercurrent ready to surface.
Later, after the formalities of dinner had concluded and Ryan had retreated to his room, Michael and Ethan remained behind to discuss the quarry business and other mundane topics. Yet the conversation inevitably drifted toward the deeper subject neither had named directly. "I've always been curious," Michael began cautiously, "about the early days of your poetry. You never mention much about your inspirations." Ethan paused, measuring his words. "There were a few people who shaped my writing," he said, deliberately vague. "Some left marks that I couldn't ignore, even if life pulled me in another direction." Michael's eyes narrowed slightly, a subtle awareness dawning. "I see," he said, slowly, carefully choosing his words. "Some influences linger longer than others, I suppose." Ethan nodded, his expression neutral, but his mind recalling afternoons with Claire, the way she had challenged him, inspired him, and filled his verses with a clarity and passion that had vanished the moment she left. "Yes," he admitted softly, "sometimes a person changes everything about how you see the world, and you carry that influence with you, even when life moves on." Michael, absorbing the weight behind Ethan's words, realized the unspoken truth. Claire had been more than just a friend to Ethan. She had been a muse, a catalyst for the man he had once been. The revelation was subtle, framed carefully within conversation, yet undeniable. For Ethan, speaking even this much was a cautious acknowledgement of the past, a silent confession that some connections cannot be erased. And for Michael, it was a quiet recognition that love leaves echoes long after it has ended, echoes that even marriage cannot fully silence. Ryan Harrington had always been observant, a keen student of people and their subtle gestures, and the moment Grace Parker walked into his life, he noticed her in a way he hadn't noticed anyone before. She wasn't loud or attention-seeking. Rather, she carried herself with a quiet confidence and an inquisitive spark in her hazel eyes. Grace's laughter was gentle, her curiosity contagious, and Ryan found himself drawn to her presence, the way she seemed to see the world with a combination of wonder and careful thought. They first met in a campus seminar on American literature, seated side by coincidence. Ryan, usually composed and focused, found himself leaning in slightly, eager to hear her insights and perspectives. Grace spoke with clarity and passion, her words reflecting not only intelligence but an innate warmth that made Ryan's heart quicken. Over the following weeks, chance encounters became deliberate meetings. Study sessions turned into long conversations over coffee, walks across the campus gardens, and evenings discussing dreams and ambitions. Ryan discovered that Grace was both thoughtful and tenacious, her curiosity about the world matched only by her subtle vulnerability. It wasn't long before he realized he was falling for her. Each smile, each shared secret, and each thoughtful comment pulled him deeper into a quiet, persistent affection. Love, he understood, could not be forced, and yet, in the natural unfolding of days, it had taken root, delicate but strong between them. Ryan's friends noticed the subtle changes in him, the way he seemed distracted yet focused, the way he smiled at the mere mention of Grace's name, the gentle longing that lingered in his eyes. And for Ryan, love was no longer just a feeling. It was a quiet revolution that reshaped his daily life and made the mundane extraordinary. Grace's life, until now, had seemed complete in its own way. Raised by Dr. Robert and Ellen Parker, she had been loved, nurtured, and given every opportunity. Yet one evening, a casual conversation with a visiting relative revealed the truth she had never expected. She was adopted. The revelation hit her like a sudden storm. Questions that had been dormant for years surged forward. Who were her biological parents? Why had she been given up? What stories and histories had been kept from her? Her adoptive parents, supportive yet cautious, encouraged her to seek the answers she needed, assuring her that they would stand by her no matter what she discovered. Driven by an urgent need to know her origins, Grace began tracing her past, following leads, old records, and whispers of names and places that might connect her to her beginnings. Each discovery brought both hope and anxiety, the thrill of uncovering a mystery tempered by the fear of encountering disappointment or rejection. Her search eventually led her to Boone, North Carolina, a town nestled in the Appalachian Mountains. There, small-town records, local whispers, and long-forgotten acquaintances guided her steps. Boone felt familiar yet strange, a place where the past lingered in the hills and the streets seemed to carry the echoes of generations. Grace was cautious, nervous, yet determined. Each turn of a page, each inquiry made, felt like peeling back layers of a life she had never lived but somehow belonged to. And as she followed the threads, she began to feel the presence of someone who had always been part of her story, a connection she could sense though she had not yet met her. Boone was quiet that afternoon, the streets lined with fall's golden leaves, when Grace finally came upon a woman who would change everything. Laura, standing in the doorway of a small bookstore she managed, had the same gentle warmth Grace had always felt in her dreams, a familiarity she could not immediately explain. Laura's eyes met Grace's, and for a heartbeat, recognition passed silently between them, a memory, a bond, a connection that neither could fully articulate. Grace, still unaware of the full truth, felt drawn to Laura, sensing a comfort and understanding that was unusual for strangers. Laura, however, knew the truth and felt the weight of it press against her chest. She had kept the secret for decades, fearful of disrupting the life she had built with Ethan and Sophie. The shock of Grace standing before her, biological daughter, grown into an intelligent and beautiful young woman, was overwhelming. Yet, she made a choice in that moment. She would protect Grace from the full revelation, at least for now. With a soft smile, Laura introduced Grace as a distant cousin visiting Boone. Grace, sensing no reason to doubt her, accepted the explanation, though the sense of familiarity and unspoken connection lingered. They spent time together, Laura showing her the town, sharing stories, laughing softly, while Grace's heart felt an inexplicable pull toward this woman who seemed both foreign and intimately familiar. Even as Laura hid the truth, she could not escape the truth in her own heart. This was her daughter. And while the secret weighed heavily, she knew she had to tread carefully, allowing Grace to navigate this new connection while shielding her from the shock until the right time. Ryan Harrington had never been one to give up easily, especially when matters of the heart were at stake. When Grace's sudden journey to Boone became known, he knew he couldn't allow distance to keep them apart. He needed to be near her, to understand this connection she was exploring, even if it meant bending the truth slightly. To maintain proximity, Ryan devised a plan. He would feign interest in Sophie, Ethan and Laura's daughter, using it as a pretext to remain in Boone. Sophie, sweet-natured and kind, had always been friendly to him, though she could never have guessed his ulterior motives. Ryan played the part well, charming and attentive, his presence seemingly casual, but carefully calculated to keep Grace within reach. Meanwhile, Ethan Miller had expanded his stone quarry business and was looking for capable hands to assist him. When Ryan expressed interest in learning the trade, Ethan, unaware of Ryan's romantic intentions, agreed to take him on as an apprentice. Ryan eagerly accepted, seeing it as the perfect opportunity to work alongside Ethan while remaining near Grace.
Grace, too, became part of Ethan's world, not as a visitor, but as his secretary. Her intelligence, organization, and keen sense of responsibility quickly proved invaluable. She managed schedules, maintained records, and became a quiet but essential presence in the quarry office. For Ethan, the rhythm of work and the efficiency Grace brought to the operations provided much-needed support, though he remained unaware of her true connection to Laura and Sophie. As the days passed, Boone became a web of interactions, each encounter layered with subtle tensions. Ryan carefully balanced his attention between Sophie, to maintain the ruse, and Grace, to stay connected to the object of his heart. Grace, oblivious to Ryan's deception, appreciated his presence, finding comfort in his company and ease in their shared laughter. Ethan observed the dynamics with quiet attention, seeing the sparks of connection, but unable to fully interpret the undercurrents. Laura, ever perceptive, sensed subtle shifts in relationships, the flutter of young hearts navigating unfamiliar emotions. Boone had become a small stage for a complex dance of intentions, affections, and unspoken truths, all leading towards consequences that no one could yet foresee.
Sophie Miller had always admired Ryan from a distance, noticing his charm, intelligence, and subtle attentiveness. At first, she assumed it was simple politeness or friendship, but as days passed, she began to feel a fluttering excitement whenever he spoke to her or offered guidance at the quarry. She noticed the way he smiled, the careful attention he paid to her words, and slowly, a crush began to bloom, a mixture of admiration, curiosity, and youthful affection. Ryan, meanwhile, skillfully navigated the dualities of his attention. He maintained a careful distance with Sophie, mindful of his ultimate affection for Grace, while offering kindness and interest enough to sustain the pretense. For him, the challenge was balancing the ruse with his genuine care for Grace, ensuring that neither his intentions nor the emerging dynamics disrupted the fragile equilibrium. Ethan and Laura, observing these interactions, recognized the undeniable chemistry between Sophie and Ryan. For Ethan, the memories of youthful love intertwined with present responsibility stirred an unfamiliar tension. He began to contemplate the possibility of guiding these young hearts toward a healthy union, imagining a future in which their connection could be nurtured responsibly. Laura, ever practical yet sensitive to matters of emotion, encouraged Ethan to consider proposing Sophie and Ryan's engagement if the feelings proved genuine. She understood the delicacy required, the need for patience, and the importance of ensuring the young couple truly understood one another. Yet she also felt the bittersweet awareness that past secrets, her own hidden truths about Grace, complicated every step of this equation. As days turned to weeks, Boone became a crucible of emotions. Sophie's feelings for Ryan grew more apparent, mirrored by Ryan's continued careful affection for Grace. Ethan and Laura found themselves navigating both the joys and the potential pitfalls of young love, aware that timing, truth, and honesty would all play crucial roles. The once quiet town was now alive with the undercurrents of love, deception, and discovery. Each interaction, glance, and word carried weight, hinting at revelations that would eventually ripple through everyone's lives, reshaping relationships and challenging the boundaries of loyalty, trust, and heart. Grace had spent the day wandering the hills near the quarry, her thoughts tangled like the roots of the ancient trees. Ryan's presence lingered in her mind, his attention, his charm, his growing affection, but the secret of her adoption weighed heavily. She knew she could no longer navigate this alone. With trembling hands and a heart racing with fear and urgency, she sought out Laura. Laura welcomed her with a quiet, knowing calm, sensing the storm beneath Grace's composed exterior. Grace sat across from her, voice barely above a whisper. "Mom, there's something I need to tell you," she began, though the word "Mom" felt both natural and confusing. I care for Ryan, and I don't know what to do. Everything's complicated." Laura listened, her heart caught between relief and apprehension. She had suspected that young love would soon become entangled with the secrets she had kept for years. She placed a gentle hand over Grace's.
I understand, Grace. Love is never simple, especially when there are truths left unspoken, she said softly. You have to be careful, not just with your heart, but with those around you. Ryan and Sophie and Ethan. Grace's eyes widened. Ethan, what do you mean? Laura hesitated, choosing her words carefully. Ethan cares deeply about both you and Sophie. There are histories here that complicate things. I can't tell you everything now, but I need you to trust me. Let me speak to Ethan. He will understand if I explain what's necessary. Panic and fear flared within Grace. You're going to stop this? Are you trying to interfere? No, Laura said firmly, her voice tinged with urgency. I'm trying to protect everyone, including you. Let me handle this with Ethan before you do something you might regret. Reluctantly, Grace nodded, though her heart fluttered with anxiety. Laura, understanding the delicate balance, approached Ethan later that evening, pleading with him to reconsider any engagement or plans with Sophie until the truth could be sorted. But Ethan, already stressed by the emotional entanglements and feeling protective of Sophie, misread Laura's intentions. He interpreted her insistence as favoritism toward Grace, an attempt to manipulate him for her own purposes. His temper, worn thin by years of unresolved feelings and responsibility, flared. Laura, I don't understand why you're pushing this. I'm trying to do what's best for Sophie. Laura's face fell, realizing the depth of misunderstanding but unable to correct it without revealing too much too soon. Ethan, please, just trust me, she whispered. There's more at stake than you realize. Ethan's jaw tightened, misreading her plea as an attack on his judgment. He turned away, hurt and frustrated, unwilling to see the truth she was trying to protect. The tension between them grew, a chasm filled with unspoken words and misaligned intentions, leaving Grace caught in the crossfire of secrecy, love, and misunderstanding.
The following morning, Laura could no longer bear the weight of the secret. She found Ethan in the quarry office, overseeing operations but distracted, a shadow of frustration and unresolved emotion clouding his usual composure. Taking a deep breath, she decided it was time to speak plainly, even if it risked his anger or heartbreak. Ethan, she began softly, drawing his attention, there's something you need to know. Grace, she isn't just a visitor. She's my daughter, my biological daughter. Ethan froze, the words landing with the force of a thunderclap. His mind raced, memories of the past colliding with the reality before him. His heart thudded painfully as he tried to process Laura's revelation, the very truth he hadn't anticipated, one that redefined the relationships he thought he understood. What do you mean? He asked, his voice tight, a mixture of shock, anger, and disbelief. Laura's eyes glistened with unshed tears. Years ago, before we met, I had Grace. Circumstances forced me to give her up. I never wanted to hide her from you, Ethan, but I feared how it would affect our lives, and Sophie's. I didn't know how to tell you until now. Ethan's hands trembled slightly, gripping the edge of his desk. The betrayal he felt wasn't just about the concealment. It was the emotional impact of realizing how intertwined their lives had become, how many decisions had been made under false assumptions. Hurt and confusion surged, leaving him unable to speak or act rationally. I need space, he finally said, his voice brittle. He turned abruptly and walked out of the office, leaving Laura standing there, heart aching at the damage wrought by years of secrecy. For Ethan, every familiar place, the quarry, his home, even the mountains he loved, now felt tinged with uncertainty. He couldn't bear to face either Laura or Grace, the revelation twisting the trust and stability he had built. In his mind, distance seemed the only option to process the shock, to protect his pride, and to confront the tangled emotions that had suddenly resurfaced with overwhelming intensity. Laura watched him go, torn between wanting to follow and respecting his need to retreat. She knew the path forward would be difficult, requiring patience, understanding, and the courage to rebuild trust. But she also knew that the truth, though painful, was necessary.
And as Ethan disappeared into the shadows of the quarry, both realized that healing, if it were to come, would demand honesty, time, and a willingness to confront emotions long buried.
Ethan's mind had been a whirlwind of confusion, anger, and lingering grief ever since Laura had revealed the truth about Grace. The weight of years spent managing the quarry, raising Sophie, and suppressing past regrets now collided with the revelation of hidden family secrets. He needed clarity, an anchor in the storm of his emotions. Without fully explaining his intentions to Laura, he found himself driving toward the Harrington residence. The familiar suburban streets, lined with neatly trimmed lawns and maples glowing in the soft afternoon light, reminded him painfully of everything he had lost and everything he had avoided confronting for decades. Michael Harrington answered the door himself, his composed expression betraying just the slightest curiosity. Claire followed close behind, her graceful presence radiating both warmth and a subtle tension that Ethan recognized immediately. It had been years since they had last met, yet the memories of college days, the laughter, the poetry, the quiet afternoons, surfaced like ghosts, and Ethan felt a mixture of longing and trepidation. "Ethan," Claire said softly, her voice steady but layered with unspoken emotion. "It's good to see you." "And you, Claire," he replied, his words careful, though his chest tightened with every glance. Michael gestured toward the living room, a quiet acknowledgement that conversation here would remain private. "I understand why you're here," Michael said, sitting across from Ethan. "I've always had a sense, a feeling, really, about the bond you and Claire once shared. I never needed confirmation. It was clear even back then." Ethan's gaze flickered to Claire, a silent acknowledgement of shared history. "I never wanted. I tried to move on. I thought time and distance would be enough, but..." His voice trailed off, heavy with years of suppressed longing and regret. Michael nodded, his tone calm and measured. "We all have our pasts, Ethan. It shapes us, guides us, sometimes haunts us. But it doesn't have to control the present or the future. Claire's happy, as is my son, and your life, well, it's taken its own path. That connection you shared, it was meaningful, but it's not the entirety of who you are now." Claire remained quiet, watching him with a mixture of empathy and understanding. The room was thick with unspoken words, each person acutely aware of what had been, what could have been, and what still lingered in memory. Ethan felt a flicker of relief, not from his old longing, but from the recognition that his emotions were valid, acknowledged, and understood, even by Michael, the husband who had unknowingly bridged past and present. As he rose to leave, the weight in his chest felt slightly lighter, tempered by the clarity of perspective. He had sought understanding, and while it didn't erase pain, it provided insight, a compass for navigating the tangled emotions awaiting him back home. The drive back from the Harringtons' home was quiet, the hum of the engine and the rhythm of tires on asphalt the only sounds accompanying Ethan's thoughts. Michael's parting words echoed in his mind. "If we live in yesterday, we lose today." At first, the words seemed simple, almost trite, yet the deeper Ethan contemplated them, the heavier their weight became. All these years, he had carried the past, his love for Claire, the heartbreak, the missed opportunities, the poetry abandoned, and the life diverted. And in clinging to what was lost, he realized he had allowed resentment, pride, and regret to dictate his present, shaping relationships, decisions, and emotions that could have been free. He thought of Laura, steadfast, patient, and quietly bearing the burden of secrets to protect both him and Grace. He thought of Sophie, innocent yet perceptive, navigating her first feelings of love without the guidance she deserved. He thought of Grace, the daughter he had yet to fully understand, and Ryan, caught in a web of affection, misunderstanding, and discovery. Michael's words replayed again. "If we live in yesterday, we lose today." The simplicity of the statement belied its profundity. Ethan recognized that by holding on to old wounds, he had been blind to the present, the opportunities for reconciliation, for understanding, for love that wasn't shackled by past regrets.
The mountains, glowing golden in the late afternoon sun, seemed to mirror the clarity dawning within him. The wind rushing past the car windows whispered of possibilities he had not allowed himself to consider. Pride had kept him distant, resentment had kept him rigid, but acceptance of the past without letting it dominate the present was the only way forward. By the time he turned onto the winding road leading to his home, Ethan's mind was no longer clouded by anger or confusion. Instead, it was a delicate mixture of reflection and determination. He knew that to heal, he would have to confront emotions long buried, reconcile misunderstandings, and embrace the complexities of his current life without being imprisoned by memory. For the first time in decades, the horizon ahead felt less like a reminder of what was lost and more like a path toward what could be. Michael's words had shifted something deep within him. The past could be acknowledged, even honored, without consuming the present. And in that realization, Ethan found the courage to face what awaited him at home with clarity, humility, and the willingness to truly see those he loved.
Ethan sat quietly in the dimly lit living room, the weight of the day pressing heavily upon him. The words Michael had spoken, "If we live in yesterday, we lose today," reverberated in his mind, compelling him to face the truth he had long buried. Laura entered, sensing the tension, her eyes reflecting concern and unspoken questions. "Ethan, what's on your mind?" she asked gently, though her voice carried the tremor of anticipation. He drew in a deep breath, his gaze meeting hers with a mix of vulnerability and sorrow. "Laura, I need to tell you something I should have admitted long ago." His hands clenched the armrests of his chair, betraying the turmoil within. Part of me never stopped loving Claire. Even all these years, even after everything, she's always been in my heart." The words hung in the air like a storm cloud, heavy and unavoidable. Laura's face paled, the warmth in her eyes giving way to shock, hurt, and disbelief. The love they had nurtured, the family they had built together, seemed to waver in that single confession. Her hands trembled slightly as she realized the depth of Ethan's unresolved feelings, the lingering shadow of the past that had quietly persisted alongside their life together. "Ethan, why didn't you ever tell me?" she whispered, voice breaking. The betrayal, though unintentional, cut deeper than any outward conflict could. I didn't know how," Ethan admitted, his voice strained. "I thought by focusing on our life, on Sophie, on the quarry, I could bury the past. But it's never truly gone, and I can't lie to you. Not anymore." Laura's chest tightened, her heart aching as she understood the honesty but felt the sting of revelation. After a long, silent pause, she quietly gathered her belongings. I can't stay right now, Ethan. I need space. I need to think." Tears filled her eyes, but her hands remained steady as she zipped her suitcase and moved toward the door. Ethan reached for her, desperate, but she gently shook her head. "I love you, Ethan, but I can't ignore this. I need to leave, for now." With that, she stepped out, leaving him alone with the quiet hum of regret, a house filled with unspoken words, and the realization that the past and present were colliding in ways he hadn't anticipated. Sophie had been silent all afternoon, riding her horse along the rolling hills surrounding the quarry. Anger and confusion mingled within her, a whirlwind of emotions stemming from the revelations about Grace and Ryan. Believing herself betrayed by those she loved most, she had fled with reckless determination, mounting her horse and riding straight toward the quarry where a controlled explosion had been scheduled. The quarry's machinery rumbled ominously, workers scurrying to maintain safety protocols, oblivious to the approaching danger. When Ethan noticed Sophie's absence, dread seized him. "She's gone!" he shouted, his voice cutting through the air like a bell of alarm. Grace and Ryan immediately joined him, realizing the severity of the situation. Ryan, without hesitation, mounted a secondary path on horseback to intercept Sophie, his heart hammering with fear and determination. Grace ran alongside the quarry edge, shouting her name.
Ethan's mind raced. He knew the explosion was imminent and that Sophie's life hung precariously in the balance. The first blast shook the ground, sending clouds of dust into the air. Sparks flew as the controlled demolition began, and Sophie, startled by the sudden roar, tried to rein in her horse, but the animal bolted, driven by panic. Ryan surged forward, closing the distance, while Ethan navigated the dangerous terrain, dodging falling rocks and flying debris. Smoke and fire quickly began spreading into the nearby forest, the explosion igniting dry leaves and branches. The roaring blaze created a surreal, chaotic tableau of danger and desperation. Ethan's heart pounded as he called to Sophie, Grace shouting directions, and Ryan, close enough now, leapt to reach her. With a mixture of courage, timing, and instinct, Ryan grabbed Sophie just as her horse stumbled, lifting her to safety. Ethan arrived moments later, supporting the young rider as Grace embraced her in relief. The smoke thickened, the fire crackling around them, but together they navigated back towards safer ground, hearts racing, adrenaline flooding their veins. As dawn broke over the smoky hills, the aftermath of the quarry incident revealed both exhaustion and relief. Sophie, shaken but unharmed, leaned against her horse, tears streaming down her face. Ryan knelt beside Grace, gently taking her hands in his. "I love you, Grace," he whispered, sincerity and devotion shining in his eyes. "I never want to be apart from you again." Grace's heart swelled with emotion. She had feared the revelation of her origins, feared misunderstandings. Yet here, in the chaos of the night, she recognized the depth of Ryan's love and the courage he had shown to protect both her and Sophie. "I love you too," she replied, her voice trembling with joy and relief. Sophie, still emotional from the near disaster, looked at them both, the intensity of her own feelings softened by understanding. She saw that Ryan's heart truly belonged to Grace, and with a quiet exhale, she forgave both of them. "I understand," she murmured, her eyes glistening. "I forgive you both. I just want everyone to be safe." Ethan, Laura, who had returned in haste after learning of the incident, and the others gathered around, their relief palpable. The danger had passed, and the bonds between them felt strengthened, tempered by shared fear and the clarity of priorities. As the first light of dawn spilled over the mountains, illuminating the smoky hills with golden warmth, a sense of peace settled over Boone. Love, courage, and forgiveness had triumphed over fear, misunderstanding, and past grievances. For Ryan and Grace, it was the beginning of a love unburdened by secrecy. For Ethan and Laura, it marked the start of reconciliation and healing. And for Sophie, it was the lesson that trust, forgiveness, and family were worth embracing even amidst chaos. The hills of Boone, bathed in morning light, seemed to echo the quiet victories of the human heart. Love had survived, hope endured, and life, in all its complexity, moved forward with renewed promise.
The sun had begun its descent over the Appalachian foothills, casting golden light across the quarry and surrounding hills. Ethan stood outside, the cool evening breeze tugging at his hair, and thought of Laura, the woman who had always stood by him, whose quiet strength had been a foundation for the life they shared. The events of the previous days, from Grace's revelation to the quarry incident, had left Ethan with a clarity he could no longer ignore. He found Laura sitting on the porch, her gaze distant, hands folded over the straps of her bag. She looked as though she had carried the weight of the world alone, and Ethan's chest tightened with guilt and longing. Slowly he approached, his footsteps tentative but purposeful. "Laura," he began, his voice low, hesitant, "I need to tell you something." She turned, eyes meeting his, wary but attentive. "I've spent years holding on to pride, letting past regrets cloud my judgment, but I realize now none of that matters as much as the life we've built together, as much as you and Sophie and Grace." Laura's expression softened slightly, though her lips remained pressed together. Ethan continued,
I was wrong to distance myself. I should have trusted you, confided in you, and faced the truth with you by my side. I don't want to lose you." Tears welled in Laura's eyes, the tension of the past days beginning to unravel. "Ethan," she whispered, "I've loved you through all of this. It hasn't been easy, but I never stopped hoping you'd see what matters most." He reached for her hands, holding them tightly. "I see it now. Family, love, honesty, those are the things I almost let slip away." A quiet moment passed, filled with the warmth of understanding and the soft rustle of evening wind. Finally, Laura nodded, a tear escaping down her cheek. "Then let's not waste another moment," she said, her voice firm but tender. Ethan pulled her into an embrace, the weight of unspoken fears lifting as they held one another, reaffirming the bond that had weathered years of secrets, misunderstandings, and heartache. In that embrace, Ethan realized that reconciliation wasn't just about mending past wounds. It was about choosing love over pride, family over resentment, and trust over fear. The hills around them seemed to echo the newfound peace, a quiet testament to the strength of enduring love. Days later, Ethan found himself standing at the edge of a quiet clearing near Boone, where the hills rolled gently into the distance. Claire was already there, her expression calm, yet tinged with the emotions of their shared past. It had been years since their lives had intertwined, yet the bond they shared, the spark of friendship, understanding, and unspoken love remained unmistakable. "Ethan," Claire said softly, her voice carrying a hint of nostalgia. "It's been a long time." "It has," Ethan agreed, his eyes reflecting both fondness and melancholy. I wanted to see you one last time, to say thank you for everything, our memories, the inspiration, the dreams we shared." Claire smiled faintly, a warmth in her gaze that made the past feel alive yet distant. "And I want to thank you too, Ethan, for your poetry, for your friendship, for never giving up on who you were, even when life tried to take you elsewhere." They walked slowly together along the path, the soft crunch of leaves beneath their feet blending with the whisper of wind through the trees. There was no need for apologies or explanations. The understanding between them transcended words. Years of longing, heartbreak, and unspoken feelings were acknowledged silently, their hearts finally unburdened. In that embrace, Ethan realized that reconciliation wasn't just about mending past wounds, it was about choosing love over pride, family over resentment, and trust over fear. The hills around them seemed to echo the newfound peace, a quiet testament to the strength of enduring love. Days later, Ethan found himself standing at the edge of a quiet clearing near Boone, where the hills rolled gently into the distance. Claire was already there, her expression calm, yet tinged with the emotions of their shared past. It had been years since their lives had intertwined, yet the bond they shared, the spark of friendship, understanding, and unspoken love remained unmistakable. "Ethan," Claire said softly, her voice carrying a hint of nostalgia. "It's been a long time." "It has," Ethan agreed, his eyes reflecting both fondness and melancholy. I wanted to see you one last time, to say thank you for everything, our memories, the inspiration, the dreams we shared." Claire smiled faintly, a warmth in her gaze that made the past feel alive yet distant. "And I want to thank you too, Ethan, for your poetry, for your friendship, for never giving up on who you were, even when life tried to take you elsewhere." They walked slowly together along the path, the soft crunch of leaves beneath their feet blending with the whisper of wind through the trees. There was no need for apologies or explanations. The understanding between them transcended words. Years of longing, heartbreak, and unspoken feelings were acknowledged silently, their hearts finally unburdened. "I think we're both in places we're meant to be," Claire said, "happier, stronger, living the lives we were meant to live." Ethan nodded, a quiet smile tugging at his lips. "Yes, and I hope you always find joy in every chapter of your life." As the sun dipped lower, casting a golden glow over the hills, they embraced briefly, a gesture of friendship, gratitude, and closure. When they pulled away, there were no lingering regrets, only a serene acknowledgement that their paths had diverged, but the impact of their shared past would remain forever. "Goodbye, Ethan," Claire said finally. "Goodbye," he replied, watching her walk away, the mountains ahead bathed in soft light. It was the perfect ending, a farewell free from bitterness, a friendship preserved.
The Blue Ridge Mountains were alive with color and anticipation as Ryan and Grace prepared for their wedding. Golden autumn leaves danced in the crisp breeze, the air fragrant with pine and the distant scent of wood smoke from cozy mountain cabins. Boone, once a quiet town filled with secrets and uncertainty, now brimmed with joy and anticipation. Preparations were meticulous, yet infused with laughter and shared excitement. Sophie assisted Grace with the final touches on her dress, teasing her and laughing at her nervousness. Ryan moved through the bustling gathering, offering smiles and reassuring words to family and friends, his hand occasionally brushing Grace's in quiet, meaningful gestures. For Grace, the wedding symbolized far more than a union with Ryan. It represented a life free from hidden pasts, a love unburdened by secrecy, and the culmination of a journey that had tested her resilience and courage. She looked at Ryan, her heart swelling with affection and certainty. "We've come so far," she whispered. Ryan squeezed her hand gently. "And now we begin the rest of our journey together. No secrets, no regrets, just us." Even the mountains seemed to celebrate their union. Birds called overhead, sunlight streamed through the trees in golden shafts, and the gentle hum of nature provided a perfect soundtrack to the final preparations. Family and friends moved with quiet excitement, helping decorate, arranging flowers, and ensuring that every detail reflected the love and joy of the day. For Ethan and Laura, watching Ryan and Grace, there was a profound sense of fulfillment and hope. Years of challenges, misunderstandings, and heartache had led to this moment of clarity, reconciliation, and celebration. Even Sophie, now smiling freely, reflected on the resilience of love and the strength of family bonds. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, casting the Blue Ridge Mountains in a warm golden glow, Ryan and Grace stood hand in hand, ready to take their vows. It was a union symbolic of enduring love, one that had overcome obstacles, embraced truth, and emerged brighter, unburdened, and free. The mountains, silent witnesses to countless stories over generations, now bore witness to a love that had triumphed over past regrets, a celebration of hearts united, and the promise of a future full of hope and joy. The officiant's voice carried softly across the mountainside, blending with the rustle of leaves and the distant call of birds. Vows were exchanged with heartfelt sincerity, each word echoing the lessons of patience, trust, and resilience. Ryan's voice trembled slightly as he promised his unwavering love and devotion, while Grace's reply was steady, filled with conviction and joy. Tears glistened in many eyes, reflecting the weight of journeys overcome, the mistakes, secrets, and heartbreak that had led to this moment. Laughter mingled with gentle applause as rings were exchanged, symbolizing not only love, but trust, forgiveness, and the promise of shared tomorrows. As the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, the mountains seemed to exhale with them, the wind carrying petals and leaves in a swirl of color. Ryan and Grace shared their first kiss as a married couple, sealing a bond that distance, secrets, and time had tested, yet had emerged stronger and brighter than ever. The small gathering erupted in quiet celebration, hugs, congratulations, and photographs that captured the essence of family, love, and enduring friendship. The morning sun bathed the Blue Ridge Mountains in a golden glow, illuminating the vibrant autumn foliage and casting a gentle warmth over the small gathering.
The air was crisp and fragrant with pine and the faint scent of earth, creating a serene backdrop for a day that symbolized love, resilience, and new beginnings. Ryan and Grace stood side by side on a small wooden platform carved into a hillside, surrounded by family, friends, and the mountains that had witnessed their journey. Grace's dress shimmered softly in the sunlight, delicate lace tracing her shoulders, while Ryan's eyes reflected a mixture of nerves and profound joy. The intimacy of the gathering made the ceremony feel even more personal, as if nature itself had conspired to bless their union. Sophie, radiant and supportive, adjusted Grace's veil one last time, whispering encouragement and teasing lightly to calm her nerves. Ethan and Laura watched from the front row, their hands intertwined, the earlier storms in their hearts now replaced with peace and the gentle pride of seeing love triumph across generations. Even Claire and Michael, seated nearby, offered warm smiles, understanding that the bonds of friendship, respect, and closure were as important as the celebration itself. The ceremony over, the families lingered on the mountain ridges, gazing out across the rolling hills and valleys bathed in the soft glow of late afternoon. The beauty of the Blue Ridge Mountains seemed to mirror the sense of hope and renewal that filled every heart. For Ethan and Laura, the events of the past weeks had crystallized the truth that family, love, and forgiveness were far more valuable than pride, resentment, or past grievances. Sophie stood beside her parents, her young heart full of clarity and understanding, having witnessed love's endurance and the power of forgiveness.
She glanced at Ryan and Grace, now quietly holding hands, their happiness radiant and unshakable, a living testament to patience, trust, and courage. Ethan, feeling a deep sense of peace, turned to Laura, squeezing her hand gently. Their journey, filled with misunderstandings, revelations, and reconciliations, had brought them closer than ever. He realized that life's unpredictability was not a curse, but a teacher, guiding them toward truth, love, and resilience. Claire and Michael stood nearby, watching the family bonds intertwine and flourish. They exchanged a quiet look, acknowledging that the past, though bittersweet, had ultimately allowed each of them to find closure, contentment, and renewed purpose. The shadows of old heartbreaks had lifted, replaced by acceptance, understanding, and the quiet joy of the present moment. Grace, now fully embracing her place within the family, leaned against Ryan, feeling the certainty of love unclouded by secrets. Together, the families shared laughter, stories, and the simple, profound connection of shared experience. Mountains, trees, and sky bore witness to this tapestry of lives, woven together by courage, honesty, and enduring affection. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, painting the hills with warm amber hues, everyone paused to look toward the peaks ahead. The future was uncertain, as it always is, but it shimmered with possibility, hope, and the quiet assurance that love, resilient, forgiving, and steadfast, would guide them through whatever lay ahead. In the heart of the Blue Ridge Mountains, the family stood together, hearts unburdened and spirits uplifted, embracing a new chapter. Forgiveness had healed old wounds. Love had conquered fear and misunderstanding. And as the last rays of sunlight kissed the peaks, a sense of serenity settled over the mountains, over Boone, and over the lives that had been forever changed. The horizon ahead promised endless beginnings, and for the first time, every heart was ready to welcome them.